So thanks to Anthony ISCA to ask me to speak today, and certainly, we've got a pretty difficult sort of time ahead of us as a state. The budget yesterday, outlined really that there's no extra money around for infrastructure, and there's going to be cuts coming. And I think that what that means for us is we have to look at how we're going to do things better. How do we do more with less, but also getting better outcomes as we go forward. So I think that for WA, we have a lot of challenges, particularly with our size. We're one of the sort of largest areas in the world, and that puts a lot of drivers on us and different types of problems that we have to solve. And I think that how we look at going about that work in a sustainable way is really important for everything that we do, and it's a very diversified space. It's important to remember that we're part of a transport portfolio, so main roads is part of public transport, Department of Transport as a three, and together we work very closely, particularly in our planning spaces and setting out new plans for what Greater Perth and the state of WA looks like, how transport interacts with housing planning and the general planning stuff that we do, and certainly focusing on customers and needs is important. We've just gone through a large process with a 3.5 million people Perth plan that's currently with the Minister, and soon will be out hopefully for public comment, but that already set up how the state's going to be structured up as we go forward. We have a lot of congestion challenges in Perth, certainly. I did a presentation with the RAC, or I went to a presentation with the RAC last week, and it was titled Congestion Crisis, and it was quite interesting. I had a bit of a discussion with them as I went in, and I said, there was, in that morning Ecuador had a major earthquake, and certainly Syria was going through some problems, and I said, that's a crisis to me. Congestion doesn't really seem to be a major crisis. And I was quite fortunate because Phil Davis, who's the CEO of IA, was speaking and was sat next to me, and he said, no. He said, it was very easy to get to work, you should go try living in Sydney. So hopefully the RAC will see a sort of crisis, but the reality of congestion is it costs the state a lot of money. Environmentally it's bad with the amount of emissions that we've got, and certainly as what we're trying to do is manage that space. What we've been trying to do is sweat our asset, so that, looking at traffic signalling, phasing, how we do all that stuff, and we certainly get some good results in that area at the moment. Our regions are a very, very different thing to the city, and we've got long stretches of road in remote places, and these offer different challenges for us. Particularly for these is freight movement. The big stuff in the Pilbara, is moving iron ore, certainly from the East Pilbara to ports. We're looking at some new sort of types of road trains, 60-metre quads. These can take 20% more capacity than a normal 53.5-metre road train, which means less journeys. They're also safer vehicles. So as a sustainability point of view, these are pretty good. So trials are ongoing at the moment, and they're going quite well. But really is a different challenge for us in the regions, and certainly safety plays a big deal as well. The wheat belt's got issues. We move a lot of grain around there. So how do we get the right outcome on all fronts from a sort of economic point of view, safety point of view, and a sustainable point of view for our environment is a big challenge for us. For the future, certainly, what we see in main roads is that there's still going to be a growth in road traffic. We do try and get other modes of transport moving, and we'll talk a bit about that later, but certainly the growth in road traffic is going to continue, and we've got a large capital program of projects that we're doing. We've just finished the Gateway project, which we'll have an award later for that, which is fantastic. But all of our major projects, we're looking to ensure that we're building them sustainably, and we use the tool here to make sure as we go through. And that's a key part of what we do and how we deliver our work. And certainly the next one, Northlink, which is ongoing at the moment, is moving through that. And one day, if we ever get Freightlink up, certainly we'll be ensuring that's getting some good sustainable outcomes. Last year, we had a bit of a change in strategic direction. We sort of moved into a new space of trying to keep WA moving, and really what we were looking at there is for main roads is how do we keep up to date with technological advances, and a lot of my presentation will be a bit about that and how the world is going to change in the transport space going forward. We also need to manage well and be cost conscious and making sure we're spending taxpayers' money effectively and efficiently. And again, making sure we can move people and freight. And we had 4 key areas: customer movement, safety and sustainability. And today I'll probably really try and focus on the sustainable aspects of where we're going with our policies. Some of our key achievements to date is that we've basically rolled out all of our traffic signals now. All of our traffic signals in the state are LED. We're the first state to do that, and that's a great achievement for us. And certainly with our light vehicles, and we have quite a large fleet, we're pushing through fuel standards on those. We've had a large investment in PSPs, in cycle paths, and over the last 4 years we've had a $72 million investment, large new cycle paths being opened on all our major projects. In our contracts, we're also looking at sustainability clauses, certainly using the ISCA tool to making sure we're getting the right outcomes. We're doing a lot for community access as well, trying to get people onto bikes, so the new cycle bridge and other initiatives, really trying to get people to change that the way they travel. And again, we're a strong supporter of the rating scheme and have been members since 2009, and that's important to us going forward. We also use the sustainability tool for projects for 20 to 100 million, and we self-assess, so we make sure we're trying to apply it for most of our projects, and certainly we do it formally for all of our projects greater than 100 million. And I suppose we've had a lot of really good results in this, and we'll continue to improve, and I think it's helping us innovate in a way and also deliver better outcomes for our projects. But one of the interesting spaces for me is the pilot trial that we're doing in the Midwest Gascoyne, which is really focusing on maintenance and some aspects of asset management, which I think is a next step forward for ISCA, and making sure that what we do and how we operate and manage our networks is also done in a sustainable way. We've got a new sustainability policy which has been accepted across the portfolio. So the three parts of the portfolio have signed up to this, and we've shaped it specifically to suit keeping WA moving our own strategic direction. And clear things here. Really trying to get people on other forms of transport, so trying to drive away the dependence on the car. That's a key area for all the portfolio. Looking at equity of access and mobility for transport. Certainly climate change, we've got issues of a vulnerable road network, certainly when we get cyclones and the likes up north, but also bushfires and the type. So we need to make sure that we're looking at how we're making repairs to that, but also ensuring that it's good for the future and can meet the impact of climate change. We're certainly trying to reduce our direct environmental footprint by focusing on emissions, pollution, waste, land use and resources. And Louis done a pretty good job internally for us as an organisation, and we continue to make steps forward in that space of how we do stuff. We've talked a bit about sustainable travel, and I'll talk more about that later. But certainly for me is one of the big thing is about trying to take on opportunities and innovations as they go forward, and it's a difficult space for governments in the fact that you don't want to be on the bleeding edge too much, but you certainly need to be taking up some of these opportunities. And so there's a lot of stuff that we do. I've got to disappear at 11 o'clock today. I sit on the Sustainable Built Environment National Research Centre board. Main Roads is the major funder of that across Australia, and certainly we invest heavily in research in a lot of areas of transport and housing, and it's a big driver for us, and hopefully through that sponsorship and that research we can get some great outcomes. So certainly there's a big investment in that. Some of the newer things that we're doing, we're just on Tonkin grade stuff. We're starting to look at a trial of connected street lighting. This is looking at the leaf nut equipment, allows us to remotely control how our street lighting works. Also trying to push forward on an LED street lighting trial, and that's key as well for us, and hopefully on the Tonkin project we can do that. We're expanding our carbon reduction plan to look at our projects and the road network, and we're also trying to start to understand about renewable energy into road infrastructure, and certainly whilst we use solar to power streetlights and signs in spaces, what more can we do in this space, and we'll touch on that later. Recycled materials are a key area for us, and we do try very hard to use recyclables. And one of the big issues in that space is that we really need to remove some of the environmental issues around asbestos in RAP, and at the moment we struggle with that. Is that we basically inherit whatever's there, and it's our liability, and that's not quite the way it should work. I think this stuff needs to be treated properly, so that's a bit of an ongoing space for us. We're also looking at different forms of contract that try and get us better value for money for the state, and I think that's a really important part of our sustainability drive, is that how do we spend our money, making sure we're doing it in the right spaces in the right way. And certainly, and I've already talked about research and how we're going in that area. The future is going to be a big challenge for us. Look, you're all aware of this connected and automated future that's due to happen. You've all heard about the Google car, and for us, this is really important as an agency. And what we're trying to get ready for, and this is really part of our new strategic direction, is preparing for this future. And the future is going to change really everything that we do and how we travel, and it's one of those, I suppose, once in a lifetime shifts of transport and what it means to us. And so certainly from a sustainability point of view, this is key, because there's a number of technologies, a number of things coming in the future that are going to give us far, far better outcomes. So for me is, the way to win in this space is by early adoption, and it's on many, many levels, not just safety, not just emissions and the like, but if we can adopt early and take this technology on, it will be fantastic. So you've seen a lot of the car companies are moving away from car manufacturing to transport providers. They're buying into software companies. They're trying to get JVs with other parties. And it's a really, really important thing going into the future. Certainly an area where we can really start to improve is by ride sharing. Again, is that we've talked about our reliance on the car in Perth, and I was quite amused and a wry smile on my face when Malcolm Turnbull and the government talk about the 30-minute city. I don't know how anybody will get from Two Rocks to the centre of Perth in 30 minutes unless they've got a rocket. It's too far. We've got a city that unfortunately the planning has allowed it to become one of the longest cities in the world. I believe it's over 100 kilometres now, and that's going to give ongoing problems for us as we go forward, as we've got to manage that. So certainly ways that we can mitigate some of these issues are by ride sharing, and we've got to really start to embrace how all this works. I believe the Uber stuff has now gone through Parliament, is getting resolved, but there's real opportunities with customers sharing Ubers and sharing things going forward, and I think that's a key space for us to reduce some of our congestion. As we go forward as well, I think that how we use our vehicles is going to change, and I think how the city is going to be shaped up as a result of that will also be important for us. So as an agency, what I'm trying to do is get us ready with data management and understanding our data and getting our information and using that in better ways to make better decisions. And so certainly already now we've got a better handle on our congestion. We know every single junction and every single link in our road network, how it performs on a congestion basis, but also on a safety basis. So that allows us to prioritise where we spend our money and what we invest in, which is a really, really important space. And this is using data we collect and we buy and the likes. And that space is going to get better and better. The next areas for us, we keep getting the low fruit, so tweaking our traffic signals and the likes, but we've also got to look at how we use and operate our network and where other opportunities are to get better integration with public transport. So again, we're working very hard with the PTA to get more bus lanes in, to get better bus access, and we're working in conjunction with the moment about bus priority. So as a bus comes towards a set of signals, it can get a priority over other vehicles, and those signals will change to suit it. So all of these things we're trying to work in going forward. The space of electric vehicles is also really, really important, and I think that the opportunity here is great. RAC have put in the electric highway, which I had a look at bits of it last week. So certainly, all the way down to Margaret River. Now there's charging stations down there. Unfortunately, every single one I had a look at, there was nobody using them, but I think the take-up of these going forward will improve. I was at a lunch last week, and you know, I don't know if you've been to many lunches where you've sat next to somebody who's bought a Tesla. Well, all they can talk about is a Tesla. It's a bit like when they bought an Apple phone 20 years ago or 10 years ago, all they could talk about was the phone, but now all they can talk about is a Tesla. And the keys are quite cool and stuff. But certainly, as batteries improve, you know, we're all going to have a solar power at home and a battery at home, and you know, the same with vehicles. And this can really start to drive, you know, solar vehicles will come through, but also for us in how we manage our network. And there's opportunities that we can take to use solar on our road, and certainly in France, which is the top left picture here, this is the Colas project, a waterway product. French government announced it's going to lay 1,000 kilometres of this product on its roads over the next 5 years, and you know, certainly it's not the first, but these are solar roads. These are roads that generate power. You know, interesting, the bottom two there is that rather than actually laying it into the asphalt, they're using the road reserve to generate power and sell. So, you know, if you think about the middle one there at the bottom, I mean, that can drive all the street lights. Certainly, it could probably drive a lot of the sort of smart technology, but actually probably they could sell a lot of that power off as part of the grid space. And again, the use of car parks and the like below. So there's a lot of opportunities for us, and we're starting to look into this space about how we can go and do more in this space. And it's a bit of a watch and learn and see. One of the bigger things, I suppose, for us going forward in WA is that we're working very closely with the RAC on an automated bus. You know, again, it's important for us to be sort of part of the game in automation. We're certainly working very hard nationally to change regulation, but it's starting to get to a space where, you know, we've got an electric bus automated, and for people in WA to learn and see how these things operate. You know, the safety benefits of these are huge for us going forward, and I think that it's a really exciting journey we've got over the next 10 years in that sustainability space, not just with how we do things with materials and how we build stuff, but also in how and what we use in terms of transport modes, and that's a really important space. But so for main roads, you know, we're certainly moving away from that historical road builder. We still build a lot of this stuff, really into looking about as a transport provider in the future and how we utilise our networks to get better outcomes for all our communities. Thank you very much.